Well, good evening, internets. It's me, DP Knudten, for another exciting edition of BOOKWARD BOUND. 301 days from I should really do this to done. And what am I talking about, done? I'm talking about a brand new book by January 1st, 2021. And since March 5th of 2020, I've been doing these consecutive daily live streams where I actually work on the book, progressing it forward in one form or another. Some nights I'm writing, some nights I'm outlining or mind mapping book structure, that type of thing. Other nights I'm designing, like I designed the cover art, which you've already seen right there. And because, of course, if you're going to write a book, the best thing you can do is design the cover as the first thing you do. And yeah, maybe not the smartest thing, but it's the way my mind works, so that's the way I'm doing it. So with these consecutive live streams, I'm writing the book and allowing you to kind of look over my shoulder as I do it. And in a program called Scrivener, which you see before you right here. And over on the left side, you can see a whole bunch of different red flags that mean, hey, these are sections I have not written that need to be written. The yellow ones are, dude, you've written a little in here, but you haven't finished it. And then the blues are, hey, this section is done, more or less, but it needs to be proofed and edited. So lately I've been going through the blue ones just kind of to convert some of those blues into greens. And should I do that tonight? Yeah, this is a big section. Okay. Not worrying about that right now. A logo is not a brand. All right, so let me just go through this, and I'm actually going to read it aloud because that's my pro tip to you, which is if you want prose that flows. Oh, prose that flows. Oh, I'm a poet and didn't know it. If you want prose that flows, read it aloud because that's the fastest, easiest way to see if your prose, in fact, is working. If you stumble, that's a near perfect indicator that something's not working right. Where's Restream chat? I can't find it. Oh, hold on. I'm trying to get Restream chat open because if anybody's watching, you can type into your comment box and any questions, any comments, any, hey, how are you tonight? Whatever's, greetings, and I'll be able to see them. But for some reason, Restream wasn't popping up. There we go. As you can see right there, Restream. Yay. All right, I'm going back to Scrivener. So if you have any questions, by all means, go ahead, ask, say hi, whatever you want to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to read through this copy, read through this section, and look for stumbles, look for obstacles, things that don't make sense, and look for holes that I need to fill. So let's get started. A logo is not a brand. Yeah, that's for damn sure. The word brand is one of those that we all pretend to know what it means. But in actuality, there's a great deal of variance on how we define it. For some, it's little more than the consistent use of color, type, logo, and tagline. For others, it refers to not little more. It refers to the packaging that a product comes in. For others, it refers to the packaging a product comes in, the packaging a product comes in. It doesn't need the that. That's one of the tips too, is that copy. If you're like me, you tend to have too many that's in there. So go through and delete half of them. and you'll probably notice that you don't miss them. For others, it refers to the packaging a product comes in. And for people like me, it's something else entirely. The complete philosophical and authentic foundation for every decision, communication, and interaction between a company, its people, and its customers. Plural. If you take a look at any dictionary definition, you'll typically find a lot of focus on what I would call the packaging variant. A brand name, a brand image, a brand color. But that's just the beginning of what a modern brand actually is. I've participated in a minor war about this topic with a friend of mine who is more or less brand agnostic at best and brand hostile at worst. Why? Because he believes that branding is unnecessary for most interactions in the digital marketing space, since it's just so easy to funnelize marketing programs that can lead to sales. Let's call this the transaction focus point of view. And he's probably right if you're selling things that come in boxes, cans, or bags. But brands focus on something far more permanent. Relationship. After all, a lifelong relationship can have a multitude of transactions. And if your services don't come in a box, can, or bag, relationship is the only thing you should be selling. All right, so this is 3, I don't think it should be, 13 unbolded. When is a box of cereal not a box of cereal? When it's an instant trip back to your childhood. I grew up in a Pepsi house. That was my dad's preferred soft drink when it wasn't Dr. Pepper. Like so many second-born boys, I did not idolize my father like my older brother did. I took a reflexive, contrarian position at every possible opportunity. So, of course, I'm a Coca-Cola guy. But there's a lot more to it than natural contrariness. When I think of Coca-Cola, I think of Kansas in August, visiting my grandmother, and spending Kansas in August, visiting my grandmother in Salina, which we always called Saliva, and spending incredibly hot days playing outside. The only relief from the heat before the sun went down, running into Grandma's kitchen, heading to the fridge, and grabbing an ice cold green glass bottle with a very unique shape. And one step toward... I don't get that one step. And real refreshment came in the form of pudding. Not in drinking the bottle's contents, but in the form of put that cold green glass bottle up against my neck. Instant relief. Only then did I open the bottle to access the purported product inside, a sweet, bubbly, and brown substance we called Coke. Looking back, I realized that's when my brand loyalty to Coca-Cola was born. Not because of the fluid, not even because of the bottle, but because of what I now know as the entire user experience made possible by a brand called Coca-Cola. Am I supposed to fill this in? He says to himself. I wrote this a long time ago, so Just one example you might be familiar with. Yeah, there you go. Let's say you and some friends go to a restaurant. The server is taking down drink orders. As the server is taking drink orders, one of your party asks for a name brand soft drink. The server then says something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, we only serve other brand products." What happens more often than you'd think? The orderer says, "That's okay, I'll just have water." That ever happened to you? If so, you've just seen the power of brand in action. Yes, there is a flavor profile difference between, say, Cola A and Cola, I'm going to call it Cola C and Cola P. But is it really that different? To a brand loyalist, it is. And brand loyal I am. While I don't drink many soft drinks these days, when I do, I want full-blown Coca-Cola. Full-blown Coca-Cola. New Coke is a perfect example of a brand that lost its script. For those of us around at the time, 1985, the New Coke debacle was a pretty big deal. It's been case studied to death, and I'm not here to relitigate the minutiae of what happened when. But I do want to point to the episode to illustrate a critical idea. Around that time, Coca-Cola's arch nemesis, Pepsi, was airing a highly successful TV campaign called the Pepsi Challenge. They would set up a booth in the exciting new Mall of America in Minneapolis and perform a simple, "Which cola do you prefer?" blind taste test. And the results were scary, at least for Coca-Cola. Why? Because the majority of taste testers preferred the sweeter taste of Pepsi. And Coca-Cola got scared because they did their own consumer testing and results were similar. So what was going on? Were America's tastes changing? Coca-Cola moved fast to deal with the loss of market share by coming out with a new, sweeter recipe called New Coke. And the market promptly freaked out. Why? There are any number of studies you can read about. There are any number of studies you can read about it. But if you ask me, it's because Coca-Cola violated its brand. It always touted itself as the real thing. Everyone knew its secret recipe was known by less than 5 people globally. It had been the same since it was first introduced in 1886. Sure, they altered the original recipe by removing its most controversial and illegal ingredient, cocaine, but it has been the same ever since until they messed with Grandma. When I say they messed with Grandma, I don't mean Grandma, except I kind of do. See, Grandma was just like Coca-Cola, a little acidic, but really sweet, and someone you always wanted to have at the party. Just like Coca-Cola at the party, comma. Just like Coca-Cola. And when the powers that be in Atlanta started messing with Grandma, people got pissed. Very quickly, boycotts were called and petitions signed. And within a matter of weeks, classic Coca-Cola was back in stores because the people who knew the brand best demanded it. I think you could say that this was the first time in modern history where the people who bought the brand had a better idea of what made the brand than the actual owners of the brand trademark. Every brand, including yours, has at least 2 owners. There's a reason this book is called Nonfiction Brand, because there are way too many fictional brands out there. You may not be able to name any off the top of your head, but they are the brands that you don't buy. A lot of times because you don't buy their brand. I'm talking about the innovative, exciting, and cutting-edge brands that are just ripping off the industry leader and giving 80% of that leader's product and selling it at 70% of the leader's prices. You know, the good enough crowd. I hate those guys. double checking for 13. Yep, 13 point type. A completely true nonfiction brand truly knows who they are and are being it every day. The very best example I can point to of this in action is a little company based in Bentonville, Arkansas. They are not the most fashionable, trend-setting, or exciting retail or exciting of they are not the most fashionable, trend-setting, or exciting of retail environments, but they are completely true to their founding principle of low prices every day. That single three-word phrase should be embroidered on every flag they take into business battle. Every decision they make as a company is based on those three words. If an idea is raised that contradicts those three words, it dies immediately. No one would ever shop there for the latest, coolest, or most innovative. But if you want to get the very lowest price possible, price, you know where to go. The fact is, Walmart is 100% brand aligned. That doesn't mean you have to buy into that brand. I think there's a lot of truth to the idea that any sufficiently true to themselves brand is loved by some and hated by others. One of my favorite brands, Apple, is absolutely hated by a certain segment of the population as overpriced, elitist, and not a little bit pompous. And not a little pompous. And not a little pompous. And not a little bit pompous. And yet, that brand has a consumer satisfaction score to rival those of Amazon, Lexus, Chick-fil-A, and Costco. While Android smartphones may own 80+% of the global market share in mobile phones, Apple takes home around 80% of smartphone profits. Which would you rather have, market share or profit share? Me, I gotta. Stupid question, right? Brand versus commodity. If you're not the one, you're the other. What you do, assuming you haven't created a personal brand yet. What do you, assuming you haven't created a personal brand yet, have in common with a pork belly? You're both commodities. That means you're exactly the same as anyone else who performs the basic tasks associated with your job or career function. And that goes double for anyone with a bunch of acronyms after their name. But wait, I can hear the medical doctors, lawyers, engineers, advanced software developers, certified public accountants, and any number of other highly accredited individuals scream. I spent years in school, got advanced degrees, and spent untold thousands of dollars for that. I get it, it hurts. Okay. I actually talk about all this in a different section, so I'm going to cut this. About that in earlier in the book. If not, back up. And the worst part, commodities are bought for the lowest possible price, but brands, they are purchased at a premium. This demonstrable fact doesn't just apply to smartphones, cosmetics, and sports cars. It also applies directly to you. If you're a writer, you're a commodity. If you're Stephen King, you're a brand. And guess who gets a bigger advance on any new book proposal? No matter what you do or business sector you work in, it pays to be a brand. The alternative, spelled out pretty clearly above, is to be a commodity, a replaceable cog, something easily taken for granted and swapped out for another at any given time. As I write these words, the entire world is in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. People who have never been out of work are completely off the job and are wondering if there will even be a job to go back to. It's an incredibly scary time, but as a branded individual who has worked hard to establish awareness of who you are, what you do, and how you do it, it's just a little bit less scary. Why? Because a brand never has to sit around and wait for a call, because it never stops working to make sure those calls keep coming in. Let me give you a first-person example that just happened today. As an active personal brand for the past 4 years or so, I've been out and about waving my personal brand flag whenever and wherever I can, or wherever and whenever I can. After 22 plus years of not attending networking and business meetups, events, I've spent the last 3 years making up for it by regularly getting out of my comfort zone and into a number of venues and groups that welcome professional interaction and engagement. I'll be honest, some of them are just not for me. Some were business card first style events where it felt like a card trading convention where the one who collected the most business card wins. I didn't go back to that event. Others were cliquey, who the heck are you-a-thons, where new arrivals felt as welcome as a recurring rash. But some felt just right and have become routine appointments. Routine weekly appointments on my calendar. The call I received today for some possible consulting work was all due to a relationship I started over 2 years ago at one of my go-to business-oriented meetings. Someone who over time got to know the complete truth of who I am, what I do, and how I do it, called me out of the blue, now ready to talk about working together on a project in the middle of a pandemic that's forcing both of us to work remotely. No competitive bidding was involved because she had already decided to work with me based on the personal brand and all its attendant details. And I'm going to take out that because it's not necessary. Of the personal brand I've been communicating for months and even years now. How can you tell you're a brand? When they call you and only you. Writing this part later. Yesterday's phone message turned into a face-to-face Zoom call today about the specific challenges my friend is facing as she sets about starting up a brand new business that she recognizes needs a brand from the very start. From the very start. And so I asked her a bunch of questions and talked her through my process. We went on to share some early stage ideas, play around with some initial concepts, and talk budget and timeline. Notice anything missing from the previous sentence? RFP, as in request for proposal. She wasn't contacting me to invite me to pitch her business. She went straight to the, so when can we get started phase of the project. That's what happens when you're, not you are, dang. Oh, the bane of my existence, your versus your. Y-O-U-R versus Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. I hate that. When your personal brand is already done. That's what happens when your personal brand has already done the sales work, the sales legwork for you well in advance of any conversation. When people know who you are, what you do, and how you do it, the sales cycle can be incredibly short. Why? Because they already know they want to work with you, have already got their ducks in a row, and are now and are ready to go with little or no further hassle. If you need one compelling reason to get off your commodity and start branding you and your business, try that one on for size. I think you'll like the fit. All right, there you go. So that section, 2,193 words. So where's my calculator? It doesn't really matter. I'm figuring based on the style of my book and the way I've got it formatted inside that each page is going to be 300 to 350 pages or 350 words, maybe up to 375, somewhere in there. So a 2,100 word section. Geez, that's a nice size section. 3. My brain's not working. Say 20. 3 times 8, 20, 16 plus 8, 24. Yeah, little less than 8 pages. 7 some pages. Something like that. Good. Don't want to make it too long, but one of the things you'll notice is that, again, I always break up these paragraphs so they aren't too long. Like this one's probably one of the longer ones in there. It's only 123 words. Is there a longer one in there? 125 words. One of the cool things about Scrivener is if you click down here on the word count, it'll show you that the average paragraph length is 125 words. Average sentence is 20 words. Reading time, 30 seconds. That doesn't sound right to me. It's going to take more than 30 seconds to read that. Not a whole lot more, but it'll take at least a minute to read that. Hold on. Yeah, 8 minutes, 46 seconds. So it was saying 30 seconds for the paragraph. Got it. So good. This is a nice little factoid there. Just knowing that it'll take about 8.5 minutes to read that section says that's about the right maximum length for a section. I want people to be able to sit down, open up the book, read a section, get inspired, find out something new, maybe come up with an idea that they can then put it down and start acting to create their personal brand. Because as I make this point over and over in the book, if you're not a brand, you are in fact a commodity. You are the equivalent of pork bellies that are sold by the pound. If I'm up against another writer for a job, and that writer is got 5 years experience and I've got 27, their price is going to be significantly lower than mine. And if we're fighting on price, that other person's going to win because they're going to be cheaper. But here's the thing, and I've learned this time and time again. You can get a cheap plumber, or you can get the one who's going to do it right and charge what is necessary. Now, if that plumber is, I'm just pulling a number out, let's say $75 an hour. If that plumber is $75 an hour and fixes it once for $75, that's a whole lot better than a $25 an hour plumber who messes it up the first time, has to come back and deal with it, and still doesn't do it right. And then you end up calling the $75 an hour plumber to get it done right. You can be penny wise and pound foolish all you want, or you can be a brand. I choose to be a brand, and I want you to be a brand too. So dang it, get with the brand program. I think that's it for me tonight. I am going to, and you can witness this, I'm going to award this section the coveted green flag of doneness, just to say, hey, that section's been proved through. I really do need to start writing some of these other sections, though, because I got a lot to go. But fortunately, I've got a lot of time left too, because I do have, hey, by the way, this is episode 90. 90 consecutive days doing these live streams. So I'm pretty proud of that. I was always dubious that I'd be able to do it, but so far so good. I've got a whole lot left to go. Let's see, I've got 211 left to go. I have 211 left to go? Jeez, David, what have you done? Well, I'll tell you what I've done. I've made a commitment to you and a commitment to me to actually get this book done. And I'm doing it via live stream during BOOKWARD BOUND episodes, which happen every night around this time, typically around 8 p.m.-ish, 9 p.m.-ish Central Daylight Time, because I'm here in the middle of the United States of America, and it is Daylight Savings Time. So if you want to keep checking in and keeping me honest, I would really appreciate it, because it helps me. It really does. When I sit upstairs going, do I want to do this tonight? And then I think about, you know what? You kind of made a big pronouncement. You were going to do this. It kind of gets me off my seat and down here so that I actually keep it going. So thank you for helping me with this. I'm DP Knudten for the Nonfiction Brand podcast, which comes out every Monday. So yesterday we had a brand new episode, or today's Wednesday, right? Oh, Monday we had a brand new episode. You can get the Nonfiction Brand podcast wherever podcasts are free. All the usual suspects: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. And check out those episodes, new episodes, as I said, every Monday. What else can I tell you? Well, just that I'm going to be here tomorrow, so I hope you can show up there too. And if you have any questions about how you can write a book, or you want to even ask any questions about theoretically writing a book, whatever, just go ahead and chime in with any questions during the actual live stream, and I'll answer them, because I love distractions. I love shiny objects. I got a lot of squirrel DNA. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. That's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, theme music. Take us on out. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.